Hello everybody and welcome back to M&J Games. I am Michael, and now today in this second episode of the Let's Play series, we're really going to kind of flush out this main entrance plaza area, and we're just going to touch on the back plaza area just a little bit. It'll be next episode where we really build some of the buildings. And so as we get started, let me kind of explain again with this. I hope to release an episode every single Tuesday, and I'm not the fastest Planet Coaster player at times, so some episodes we might get a lot done, some we might not as much, and there might be times where I skip ahead because something's just kind of took me a while and I'm kind of doing the same thing, so I might kind of fast forward through that. But with this park, I'm not trying to have anything that's too crazy big, and as you see me here kind of working with a tunnel to where the cars would come out of and stuff to make it try to seem realistic. And that's why I did a parking lot with it, because I know parking lots can take up a lot of percent, especially when we're dealing with the Oswald counter. But I just kind of wanted to have it be the most realistic park I've done in terms of trying to have a parking lot, maintenance areas, an office, different stuff like that. And so I understand my park's not going to be as large as maybe some others, and I'm fine with that. That's why I chose the grassland map, because I feel like it's not quite as large as some of the other ones. So there's not just like the deciduous and the alpine, I feel like, are the two largest maps, to where it's, even if you are very spacious with stuff, like it still kind of uses the majority of or it's still hard to use the majority of the map. And so as you see here, what I'm doing is I'm kind of making 3 different entrances with this tunnel. 2 where the cars come in at, and 1 where the players are going to spawn and walk up on that pathway. And so what I'm doing here is I'm placing these black screens at the back so that you don't kind of see either the ugly cement or the terrain. You just kind of see these black screens where people kind of appear. So obviously it's not the most realistic thing, but I feel like it's one of the more realistic things you can have for a tunnel. Because I believe it was I forgot how you say his name, I hope I pronounced that right. I saw him do that with one of his videos, and I thought, okay, that's a pretty good idea. Now here what I'm doing is I'm trying to create like another little path that'll be kind of the exit path for the cars in the parking lot there. And so the parking lot on the right side of the park we will come back to, but I just kind of, instead of spending a whole nother episode doing stuff, I just kind of wanted to work on another area. And so one thing you see me doing here, which I think is a great trick, and it doesn't work with every sign, so you have to kind of play with it a little bit to see, but you can kind of embed the sign in the wall. And I'll talk about this door, what I'm doing in a second, because I think this is pretty cool to kind of give that realism factor. But then it sticks out to where all you see is the letters instead of the actual sign. So I really like that. Now with this door, what I did was I took I believe it's the firehouse door that came in the Ghostbusters pack, I believe. And because it's a pretty cool door, but it's pretty basic if you just have the door by itself. So what I did was I just copied it over to where I end up having 4 of the doors, and it kind of gives it more depth because it's got kind of the borders on the sides and then on the top. And obviously I meant to say woman instead of woman, so had to go change that. And so this is obviously a bathroom that's not functional. It's just a faux bathroom. It's just there for aesthetic reasons and stuff. And I haven't come up with a name yet for this park. And like I said before, I'm going to try to theme more than I normally do, because I'm really bad at, trying to theme areas. But I'm not going to go too crazy with theming. It's going to be more kind of like a Six Flags type park. And so you can kind of see that from the brick entrance and stuff. And I'm really bad at creating names and naming stuff. So if anybody has a good name of what you might think, I'd love suggestions there. Also suggestions on what the first roller coaster should be. Because I believe on episode 4 or 5, kind of in that area behind this ticketing area, is where the first roller coaster will go, kind of in between there and the car park or parking lot. All right, now what you see here, sorry, my cat was messing with the windows. So now I'm trying to create this realistic entrance line where you'd wait to get tickets and so forth. And obviously, if any guests go to those informational desks, they're just going to walk right through them. But that doesn't bother me because I want the realism factor of it. And also, I don't have the entire path underneath like I don't have the entire area path, just because paths take up so much of the Oswald meter. I just kind of have certain areas where the path's not actually at, and I covered up those areas by using I believe that's the wood tile, or no, it's the Victorian ceiling, and I just painted it kind of a red. Now I found this on the workshop, and I've got the information below on who created this, but I just changed it to fit more of the American style of prices, or not necessarily prices, but just using dollar signs and stuff. I thought it was really cool, and I added like kind of some supports to it, because on that right side is going to be more of the season passes, and the left side is going to be more daily tickets and stuff like that. So you can see me kind of changing these signs and so forth. So once again, like I said, with this area, it's just the exact same as the previous one. Now here, I'm having this be a will call area and a season pass area, so I probably should have made 2 lines, but it's all good. And then inside, instead of doing the normal informational boost, I'm going to try to create, our own realistic looking ticket booth. And I wish it would be nice to have some things like the computer version has with TMTK to make it a little more realistic, but it's all good. So now what you see here is me creating another plaza. And so if you create 2 plazas that are going different directions and just start connecting them and using that place in a path and then deleting it, and it kind of shapes the path, you get some really cool looking plazas. And so a lot of people complain because there are some areas where the pathing tool really is annoying, but I think this is an area where it's really cool, where you can kind of shape it to look different than you normally would. And then here what I'm doing is I'm placing those benches to kind of see, okay, where am I actually not having the path? Because I need to have something in the middle there, kind of like a centerpiece. And so by placing those benches, I'm kind of seeing, all right, roughly how big of a piece do I need to create or place to put there? And so here I'm just trying to do something different with the building. I'm trying to make it kind of have a unique look to it, because that's one thing I like doing as well now that I'm kind of getting a little bit better, is creating more unique style buildings in terms of the look of it and stuff like that, which can make it harder because you got to split stuff from the building and do different things. But I really enjoy it, especially when you're placing ceiling that's not the pitched roof, that's flat. I think it can look really cool. And so I'm going to have a staff building here and a couple of restrooms, and I really like how that turned out inside there. I think it looks really cool. And I'm shocked with how easy that was to connect the pass right there. Sometimes, having that area, the pass can get really, really frustrating and really tricky. And I decided to go with the lighter brick color on this just because, I want to do something different than the normal color. And I know it kind of looks really white right now at this point in terms of just really light. But hopefully when we start adding other stuff, it kind of adds color to it. And you see there, I accidentally placed it inside the wall before. So sometimes it's tricky because you got to delete the wall piece. And then so then you can click on the sign that's behind it. And so here I'm just trying to light up the ticket area just a little bit. Because one thing I always tend to forget to do is a lot of the little things, like I'll make an area and I forget to put lights and trash cans and all the different little things. And so that part's always like, then when I come back to it, it's like, oh, it's kind of annoying, but I gotta make sure to do that while I'm working on the area. And so I wanted to add some of those lights just because it covers a little bit more of an area. And now I'm looking for just a good centerpiece to use. So I didn't want to really make anything because I'm not really good at making stuff like that. And so I know the game has some fairly good ones. So I like this one because it's got the Planet Coaster sign. And so I think it works out pretty well you have the benches. I'm trying to space them out just a little bit. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. So now you see me just placing the fencing here or not the fencing, I apologize, doing the roof. And so you kind of have to, there's a lot of, moving off the grid and different things like that. And so it can be a little tedious, but I think in the long run it looks really good when you're able to do this, because you have that flat roof, but then you also have the really unique style building. Because the grid system works extremely well if you're building rectangles and squares. It doesn't really work well when you're building triangle or buildings that are other shapes other than just the basic squares or rectangles. So you just gotta kind of work with it a little bit. So this is gonna be a little backstage area, which we don't really work on that much this episode, but it's more just trying to start creating that. And so now I saw this trick by Moomin Little Socks, I believe is how you pronounce it. And he just created a basic little cable box by taking, one of the small rectangular pieces, taking the mounted screen, and by simply putting it in there, it looks like a cable box. Then you can run cables from it to other appliances, and it looks really realistic. So, that's a tool that you'll see me use a lot throughout the park. And now I'm just finishing up the trim, which I'm using the coaster supports because I kind of like the color it gives, and it's not black, it's like a really dark brown, so I think it adds a little bit of color to the buildings. And sometimes it's tough to get it perfect, but it's one of those things where people don't really zoom in and see if it's actually matches up properly. You're the only one that really sees that, so you see I had to use a smaller piece just because that large one would extend a little bit too far. So there we go. So now we have the top of that building complete. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a turnstile. And I replicated what somebody else had made on the workshop. I honestly can't remember who it is, but they use the rectangular pieces. They take the wall mount, and that kind of adds almost like you're going to use your phone to check in and stuff. And then they just use the small candy cane pieces, and you arrange them into 3 different ways to where it kind of gives you the look of it being a turnstile. So I think that's a really cool and way that doesn't take up too much of the percent, to where you can create a realistic looking turnstile to where you don't have to use the ones that the game gives you right at the entrance. And so you see me just copying it across, and I'm going to create a little area where I allow for kind of like wheelchair access and stuff like that. There we go. And so I'm going to remove the windows on the inner part of the wall in a second, so you'll see that. But right now I'm just adding a little bit of fence to create the area where, in theory, wheelchairs could enter the park. And then I'm looking at signs, and I feel like, the Western signs are really good, which I think it worked out well here. But it's like, I wish we just had more variety that the game gave us of signs that aren't lit, kind of like this one. I really like how those are, but it works for this area. But obviously that style doesn't work everywhere throughout the park. And so now what I'm doing is I'm going to kind of create the interior portion of this ticket booth area, this will call area, and I'll just have animatronics of people sitting there. Sometimes it doesn't quite go straight like you want it to, so you gotta work with it a little bit, use the advanced tool. So it can be a little frustrating sometimes, but I think ultimately it worked well. Alright, so you see me placing these guys here, and I didn't space them out properly. And then I'm going to use the sequencer, I believe is what it's called, to look like a cash register type thing. I wanted to use the computer screen because they have that sci-fi one, but it's just such a massive screen. I just didn't like how that ended up looking. So now you see me copying it over. I kind of had to shift them around a little bit because it wasn't perfect. And then now I'm going to add the TV screens behind it. And, I kind of adjust them a little bit to look down because that's how you see a lot of screens. They're not perfectly straight on there. They either are adjusted up or adjusted down a little bit. And I wish we had a way to implement more photos or have something cooler up there, or actually put in a graphic that we create. But at the very least, at least we can just put the planet coaster on it. So now I believe this is one of the last things that we will do on here, is we're going to place a wooden walkway, or wooden roof inside the bathroom area. And now this is one trick I like doing a lot to kind of separate the areas, is you just take the hazard strip like that, or not hazard strip, you just take the, I think it's the curb, and you color it whatever color you want, and it represents as a little kind of barrier to show you're going from one style of flooring to the next. And so I decided to create a little lake here in the middle, so there's not just this massive, really unused space. And it's not going to be anything crazy, but just a little area. I haven't put fountain stuff in it yet, so I probably will end up doing that in a later episode. But just having a kind of a nice viewpoint and entryway for guests as they walk in the park. And so you see I kind of messed up some of these tiles at first, because some of them showed the cement, some of them didn't. And I realized if it doesn't show the cement, the side of the tile piece kind of shows through. So I had to go back and lay a little bit more cement pieces to make sure that you saw that little area of cement all the way around. I don't know exactly. Oh, okay. So here I was just trying to recolor some stuff and see if I wanted to continue with the reddish brick style. And I felt like red was the best color for what we have, so I ended up sticking with it. And now, so I believe this is the last thing we do, and I'm not actually creating anything here. I'm just trying to map out where I would roughly want the building that goes next to that to be, and kind of what I want it to look like. And so I like using this painted wooden panel. I forget what the actual name of it, but I want to create a little area for strollers. And so I'm going to kind of have it a little bit higher than the other buildings, and I'll create a sign kind of that looks like a stroller saying where they can rent and return them. I'm also going to have an area with lockers. I don't know if this will be in the same spot yet or if it'll be on the other side. But then I also wanted to create a little clock tower to kind of have some different height with the buildings and just have something that's kind of cool and visual. And so I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of this wood that I end up using here, but I'm making it a little bit taller than the other part. Because normally I don't use this style of wood. But I'd love to hear what you guys think so far on this park and what your thoughts are, what's worked well. Is there anything that you maybe would have done differently or changed? And so we are nearing the live portion where I'll kind of go through a couple things at normal time, and I appreciate you watching and have a great rest of your day. Hello everybody, and welcome to the last couple minutes live portion of this. So if you've watched through this speed build, you've seen that I'm just kind of I've been working here on the entrance, and I've kind of been jumping around sometimes. I definitely need to work on that because that's how I play normally, and that's not the best for doing speed runs. But I found this sign on the workshop. I think it's great. I just changed it to $sign since I'm in the US. Tickets, I just used information boost there. The reason why I did these was because if you go to the theme park, you actually have these lines. And I really could care less if people walk through them. It's just trying to make it look realistic. And so the reason why these benches, as I've said before, are not right up against here is because the path doesn't go all the way up to that. And so there's nothing I could do about that, but at the end of the day, it's fine. Looks fine, looks close enough. Then here I've got season passes and will calls. So as you saw me doing this, I know it's kind of fast, but this can get kind of tricky trying to place it inside the walls. Now here I could probably do a couple more things, but we don't have the luxury of having TMTK and stuff. But I could put some stuff behind it to make it look like there's some file cabinets or something. And I gotta do something right there real quick. Hold on, because this, you can see a little bit of grass right there. So let me just move. What is going on? Hold on. Okay, let me get off of this real quick for a second. Sorry, the timer just went off for a second. Yeah, so sorry, I'm just doing this. So now there's probably a better way to do this a lot of times, but I just split stuff from buildings sometimes and then just move it however much I need to move it. In this case, it's that much, and then now I can do it again because I see that it needs it just a little bit more. And so some of the stuff with building can get a little tedious, but you know, at the end of the day, it's all good. I mean, that's part of what makes it fun, is when you get done with it, you know, you really feel accomplished that you did something. Yeah. So, you know, I still got to work on some lighting and stuff. I got to work on some lighting here because I hadn't had that trim up yet. You know, I think for now, I think these lights are good. I don't think they're great, but I'm not great with lighting. Now this down here, you know, this is hopefully you saw me make this, but just a simple way to make a turnstile and make it look realistic. So you see those. So I like that because now it gives the illusion that you're really coming into a theme park. So now I think we're really starting to see what it's going to look like. And so over here, my plan is to have a building that kind of goes this way and then cuts this way. And so this is going to be kind of like informational stuff in here, and then here I'm going to have lockers, and then the building will either end or we'll kind of start jetting this way with this one. Alright, so now you know, this is just gonna be bathrooms. I gotta put some lights in here, but I like how this turned out. I really like it. I was gonna put information up there like men, women, family, but I'm not gonna fool with that. I'm not gonna worry about it. I could probably move this over a little bit. Yeah, let me move it over a little more. There we go. Yeah, and then so I think this is coming together. And then my plan is right here, this is going to be a stroller section. And I'll show you guys exactly what that is. But I'm actually going to take out some of these walls because I want it to be pretty open. I just kind of wanted to get an idea for what I want the building to look like first. And I'll probably move it where it's a little bit more close to this, because ultimately I'm going to have this path over it, at least initially. And then right here I want to have a nice food dining complex building that kind of takes up a lot of space over here. So I don't really know fully how that's going to look yet, but I think it's starting to come together. And I really love how this turned out, making these paths right here. Yeah, so next episode, hopefully we will get finished with all this area in here. Maybe not all of this over here, but that's completely fine. So, you know, I decided to go ahead and film this second video before the first one aired, just because I kind of got in a mode of like, oh, I just want to keep playing, right? And so this is the area where I'm going to end up making the first coaster. So I don't know what coaster is going to go here yet. I'm trying to think about it and think realistically what would look good there. But as you can see, we've only used 10% so far, so I'm happy with that for everything we've done. And yeah, so the goal is, my idea is to have some kind of probably water area back here. I don't really know if it's going to be a lake, or I don't know if you're going to have like rivers and stuff, but that's just kind of my idea. And so it'd be kind of nice to have like coasters making the corners of the park. Like you got some here, you're going to have a couple coasters back here possibly, and then one or two here, and then, you know, maybe one up here or something like that. And then depending on where everything kind of ends up, I'll have a maintenance area somewhere. Haven't quite figured that part out yet, but I think this is coming along fairly well so far. I like how this has turned out. Let's kind of look at everything as the hours kind of pass. Yeah, so, you know, I still got to light up some stuff here, but I think overall it's looking good. I love how this parking lot area has kind of turned out. I think it's turned out well. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. Remember, I would love to hear your pointers, your thoughts, your insight. And please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this, and hope to hear from you guys, and have a great rest of your day.